The shifts are really quick. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a 2022 Acura MDX in the Advance package. It's really weird to say 2022, but this is in fact a 2022 model year. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Jody Wilkinson Acura for giving me some time with the new MDX. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Under the hood of the new MDX, we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 19 around town and then 26 on the highway, with power outputs being 290 horsepower and then 267 pound-feet of torque. And a quick little thing right here, I absolutely love how they did the carbon fiber and the Acura logo right there on the center. I think that's a cool little design touch, but there's everything under the hood. Now let's go over the front end of the new MDX. If you guys are wondering why I have it on, it's so the lights stay on, and I feel like this is the perfect time of day to actually see these lights. But starting over here at the hood, I think they did a really good job. They kept things pretty simple. You do have a couple body lines that go through, but overall it's this like massive flat hood, and I think it looks really nice, especially in person. And then coming down below, we've got these full LED lights with the little LED accent light that comes down and around. Parking sensors here on the front with a little venting there on the side. Fog lights here down below, which are also LEDs. And then I love the front grille setup. So you got the giant Acura logo that doubles as a sensor, and then look at the design there on the grille. It looks really nice. A lot of car manufacturers, BMW, are making grills that look absolutely atrocious because they're so massive. I feel like Acura's nailed it. The grille size is like large and imposing, but it's not so massive that it takes over the whole front end and it looks ugly. Like, it's a really good looking grill. And like, look at that from that front end angle. That just looks so cool. It's like a spaceship. Coming to the side here, we've got two 55mm tires wrapped around 20-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. As for the design on the wheels, they did smaller spokes, which I think looks really good, especially with the overall theme of this car. Notice that the wheels match, well, the rest of the accenting. So you've got the chrome wheels, you've got little chrome accenting there on the front, you've got a little bit here on the bottom portion of the mirror, and then down the side of the car, so it all kind of like pulls in together. And then notice the blacked out fender flares that kind of continue along the bottom portion of the MDX. But other than that, here is your full side view on the new MDX. Now let's pop into the back of the MDX. So first off, you got the giant MDX logo here in the back, and then you've got the mats that cover the third row as well, which is a pretty cool little touch that everything is protected. And then if you actually lift up this mat right here, there is some extra storage space just underneath, which is a nice little touch. But that's not my favorite part. My favorite part is this whole area right here. So you do have a little outlet, which is pretty neat. This is the coolest part though. So you actually have two different closing options for the rear hatch. You have this one, which I'll show you guys in just a moment. And then you've got this one up here just on the back of the hatch, which is that's pretty normal. Most SUVs have that. But this one's cool. So you press it and then it illuminates and you're like, okay, well, it didn't do anything. But then you back up and then it senses that you're no longer under it. So then it closes. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. Let's go with the rest of the rear of the MDX. So first off, you guys can see these beautiful taillights. I love the design language here on the taillights, how it just kind of like loops around onto the rear hatch. And then you actually have a normal Acura logo here in the back, unlike the giant one there in the front. And then you've got all your regular badging here, parking sensors along the bottom portion, and then the exhaust tips. I think it's another cool little feature with this, just what they did with the design on the coverings for the exhaust. You do have a little round exhaust there on the center portion, but just the coverings, I think, goes with the overall theme of the MDX here in the rear. But yeah, look at that. It's such a good looking vehicle. And notice the design language on the TLX looks pretty similar, doesn't it? Now let's go over the door panel here in the rear of the MDX. So first off, you actually get this really cool little sunshade here in the back, and then beautiful leather with nice stitching all throughout where you're going to rest your arm, all that kind of stuff. And you got this cool wood trim right here that wraps around the door handle. And then here are the seats in the rear. So really nice piping. You've got stitching all throughout. And then I love how they've like divided up the perforated section here. It definitely breaks things up. And usually black seats look pretty plain, but these are really good looking black seats. But let's actually pop in. So stepping in, I pretty much just slide right across. In terms of headroom, it's actually really good. I'm 5'11", and then legroom back here is solid as well. Another nice little touch here in the rear. It does get its own climate system. You do get heated seats here for the back. You can control it all via this little area, and then you've got a bunch of little areas where you can charge devices. And then we have this like center console seat situation, which just plop down. A couple cup holders in it, and then you can use this as an armrest. Notice they put really nice leather on this so that if you do use it as an armrest, it's a comfortable place. And then as for the third row, headroom back there is actually pretty good, and notice the seats are just as beautiful here in the third row. The legroom's a little bit more cramped, but it's actually not bad by any means. And then they do get a little cup holder there in the back, but this is the back of the MDX. Let's go with the door panel here in the front of the MDX. So first off, again, you've got the really nice soft touch leather with all the stitching all throughout, and then the beautiful wood trim. This does come with memory seats. You've got all your window controls, and I love the switches for the windows. Like, you feel like you're doing something almost eventful when you actually pull the switches. And then you do have your mirror adjustments, and then that's just for the rear hatch. And then the front seats are super similar to the seats in the rear. They have that same design where they kind of split things up with the perforated section, but they've got really nice bolsters, again, really nice stitching, and then you've got the piping down as well. These look really good. And then you do have the adjustments there on the side of the seat. You got a little Acura plaque, and then notice this does have rubber floor mats. There's what the pedals look like. You've got your parking brake up here. This is for the heads-up display, so you can adjust it and everything. And then you've got this for the safety tech. You got that for the stability control, the parking sensors. The steering wheel is automatically adjustable. And there's one more look before we actually pop in. So the MDX makes a lot of sounds when you start up the car and get into it and all that, and I just want to show you guys some of these sounds. So first off, getting into the car. You got that one, and then we've got, you guys saw the startup, so we have the startup sound as well, which is another nice one, and then we've got the sound when you turn off the car. I think that's neat. Now here's the steering wheel in the new MDX. So first off, we've got this really nice soft touch leather around the whole steering wheel with the blacked out stitching there on the center portion of the steering wheel. And then zooming in, you guys can see that we've got our controls for the center screen. You've got your cruise control. It does have the follow function and lane keep assist. And then notice the beautiful paddles there on the back. And then over here, we've got more controls here for like the radio, for example. You've got your voice command controls, the heated steering wheel button, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall, I love the design of the steering wheel, and it has all the buttons that are just really easy to get to. We've got this full digital display here in the new MDX, which I love the graphics on it. I think it just looks really nice. The camera's not showing it through very well, I feel like, because in person it looks a lot sharper. But actually going through this, you guys can see over on the right side, there's a couple different menus you can scroll through that just give you different bits of information on the MDX itself. I love how we have the driver attention level, so you can get a rating based on how good you are at driving. But yeah, you've got that whole setup. But the cool party trick of the MDX has to do with the drive mode. So you've got this drive mode select, you've got a couple you can go through. I love the sound it makes. Kind of reminds me of like a 1990s video game, which I'm all about that. But yeah, you've got the different drive modes, and notice how it actually changes the gauge cluster setup depending on what mode you actually go in. The best though is of course sport, because when you go into sport, it makes everything red and aggressive. It puts the RPMs front and center, but you still get like all the other information there on the screen. I don't know, I think that's pretty cool, and like I could just sit in here all day just to hear that sound. Brings me back. Now here's the center infotainment system. First off, we'll pop into reverse. You guys can see the camera system. You get a really good viewpoint out of the back, and then you get a bird's eye view as well with it. And then notice that when I turn the steering wheel, it'll actually turn on both screens, and it shows the tires turning on that little animation, which I think is pretty neat. But that's the camera system. Now, as for the rest of the infotainment system, I know it looks like a touchscreen. It actually is all controlled via a keypad. There's a bunch of shortcut buttons on it, and the response time on the keypad is really good, so it's actually pretty easy to use, and I love the sound. Listen to that. Like, Acura is just on point with all these sound effects they have for everything that you do in the car. But yeah, the center infotainment system, really easy to use via that keypad, and I feel like it's just integrated very nicely here into the top of the dash. Just down below, we do have the stop start button, which I love how it changes color. And then we do have our climate controls. Again, you've got the climate zone for the rear, and then you do have the two different zones here for the front. And then you do have heated and cooled seats. The seats do have an auto function on them, which is just right there in the center between the two different functions. So again, you've got the cooled, the heated, and then the auto right there in the middle, which is pretty neat. So like if you have the temperature set at high and you have the seat set at auto, it'll turn on the heated seats. But theoretically, you could turn on the automatic climate controls and then the automatic seats, and then the car will do everything for you, and you never have to worry about adjusting the temperature. And then notice this is our little drive mode select that, again, makes the cool sound. Just down below here, we've got some more controls. So we've got our brake hold, your auto stop start. And this is the gear selector. So you push in for park, you push that little button there for reverse, neutral, and then drive, and then you press it again, and that's the manual shift function with it. You guys have seen this in a bunch of the other Acuras and then Hondas as well. But this is my favorite part. I don't know, it's just some USBs, but I just love how it's like integrated so nicely into there, and then you press it and it's like, well, bam, and it pops right up. Here's the keypad to control the center infotainment system, and then again, you got the interesting sound. I don't know, that's just satisfying. Like, it makes me want to use the infotainment system because it makes cool sounds whenever I press anything. And then you do have this little extra storage thing here. I'm not sure what that's all about. Couple cup holders, and then this does come with wireless phone charging. And then notice they put this little arm thing here. I'm guessing this is so that your phone doesn't like bounce all over the place and go basically haywire, but also it doubles as an armrest, so you can like put your wrist right there, and then you can control the keypad. So I think it's like multi-function, like holding your phone in place, but then also giving you a little place to rest your wrist. So we've got the center console here, really nice leather and stitching on the center console, but pressing the button and opening it up, you got that little thing right there, and then you open it up again and you actually have access to it. You got a little outlet in there, and then you do have a USB, but I think it's cool they have this tray here on the top, so if you just want to put like your wallet there and you don't want to have to like bury through all your stuff in the center console, I think that's a nice little touch. And then coming over here, notice all of the really nice leather and stitching. You've got like the blacked out trim, more wood trim at the top, and then the whole dash completely covered in leather. Looks and feels really nice. And then opening the glove box up, it's a pretty normal glove box. But yeah, I just want you guys to admire this interior. It's really well put together from a design standpoint, and then the materials are top notch. Up top here, we do have a little sunglass holder, and then this does come with a full panoramic sunroof, which I have opened right now because it's early in the morning. And then we do have the controls for the sunroof right there, and then this does come with a lighter colored headliner. Now that we're done going over the interior on the new MDX in the Advance package, let's quickly get into the pricing. So in terms of pricing, this particular 2022 MDX with all the options it has, stickers for about $62,000 before any type of market adjustment. That all being said, let's take the new MDX out and see how it drives. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the 2022 MDX, and it's still so weird for me to say 2022 already. But first off, notice the visibility over the hood, and then hopefully you guys can now see the heads-up display with the MDX. And again, you do have those adjustments where you can actually kind of raise and lower it. You guys can probably see the gigantic Acura logo, but that actually changes where the heads-up display shows up in front of you, which I think is pretty neat. And then here's your visibility through both of the mirrors on the MDX. And then here's all throughout the rest of the rear, which is actually pretty good. Because they kind of slope things in the back, that window's a little bit smaller. But I mean, it's not bad by any means. It's really easy to see out of overall. And that all being said, well, let's set off. We are setting off here in the 2022 Acura MDX. And sorry if I accidentally said 2021 at any point in this video. I'm still kind of not used to it. But getting up and going, it actually started very, very lightly snowing this morning, which is pretty nice. Definitely freezing my fingers off, which I'll turn on the heated steering wheel for that. Nice thing that this has a heated steering wheel. But from a ride quality perspective, I mean, it's right where it needs to be. It definitely has this nice kind of like smooth feel to it on the road. And this road right here, I don't know if it's coming through onto the camera, it's really beat up. A lot of these roads, especially during the winter time, they just get tons of little, like, not like huge potholes, but like little holes in the road, and they just get really beat up in general. And this is just going over it like a champ. It's not really upsetting the MDX. It's not going all over the place. It's just definitely doing a really good job at handling it. And then the other thing to mention is the visibility out the front. I already kind of talked about that, but it's really good. It's really easy to see out of the whole MDX, and turning it, it's easy to maneuver and everything. The steering's very light, but there definitely is some directness to it. Someone probably thinks I'm drunk because of how I'm driving, but we are testing the steering in the new MDX. I am going to pop it over into the sport mode and then into the manual mode as well. Yeah, those shifts are actually pretty nice. And it does give you a little warning when it doesn't want you to go into first gear. But let's actually get our acceleration here with this 2022 MDX. The shifts are really quick. In the sport mode, they kind of add a little bit of a sharpness to them, which I really like because it kind of adds some drama to the driving. In the normal mode, they're super smooth, but again, you guys can see in the sport mode, it definitely kind of like, it kicks a little bit more, but it's still really smooth. If we go back and we put it back into the automatic mode, and then we throw it back over into the, let's actually throw it into the comfort mode. The shifts are really smooth and seamless, and it has a luxury car feel. And that'll actually get me into summing things up with this new MDX. So first off, from a styling perspective, I think that Acura absolutely nailed it. Acura's been doing a really good job with all of their new cars they've been releasing from a styling perspective. They all look really good. Like, I find myself just constantly staring at them. It seems like Acura released the NSX, and then they're like, you know what? People actually really like this look, and so then they kind of carried over that crazy styling and put it into all of their vehicles, which I think is just a huge plus. From the interior perspective, the seats are amazingly comfortable. They perfectly like hold you in place, but then they're not like constricting by any means. So perfect amount of bolstering from a seating perspective. And then as for materials, it's really nice. Like, everything that you look at is nice. Everything that you touch is very nice. Like, all the buttons, all of them like feel and look really nice. Like, you feel like you're doing something special. Like, that's why I mentioned with the window controls, I feel like I'm touching something that's just really well put together, but it also just feels nice. It almost feels like an occasion, basically. And then from a technology standpoint, I mean, it's right where it needs to be. It's got Apple CarPlay, it's got Android Auto, and that was an Audi R8. That was pretty cool. I love how I just didn't even notice until after it went by because I heard the exhaust. But yeah, really good from a tech standpoint. The camera system's great on the new MDX. And then from a driving perspective, I think they nailed it. So like, if you just put it in the comfort mode and you just drive it in comfort and automatic mode, it's a really good luxury car. But then if you pop it over into the sport mode, the transmission changes up a little bit, and it just gives it kind of like this fun, sporty driving experience, and it just completely changes the car, which you really don't see that with a lot of car manufacturers. Like, a lot of them, the drive mode will like change the gauge cluster, but then the car feels the same. This actually feels different from the comfort mode to the sport mode with everything. And the last thing I want to say is, this is awesome and I absolutely love it, but if you want more power and all that, I hear they might be doing an MDX Type S, you know, with their new V6 turbo, which that's going to be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so far they just killed it with this new MDX. Now, that is going to sum things up for our video on this 2022 Acura MDX. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Jody Wilkinson Acura here in Salt Lake City, Utah, for giving me some time with the 2022 MDX. Check out the inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.